Hi, I'm Nicholas McGurr, author of The Afterlife and host for Stories in a Cemetery. You can find all my fiction works with themes of the afterlife on nicholasmcgurr.com. That's NICHOLASMCGIRR.com. As a writer, I do research, and that research is more than likely inside a haunted location or a cemetery. Like you, I'm curious about the afterlife, and always looking for a new topic for my next book. I hope you enjoy this episode of my research as much as I did in using it for my fiction works. Let's get into today's story in the cemetery. Hey guys, welcome to episode 29 of Stories in a Cemetery. So it's a crazy world out there. We got all of this COVID-19 stuff going on, and I want to apologize for the late episode. I'm recording this on Monday, April the 6th. Normally, you know that I would record earlier than a Friday and record and post it on a Friday. But during downtime of my tours, with tourism being shut down, I do drive for Uber Eats, and I will post my link code if you need some extra cash because you're laid off right now or you're not working. I don't know that Uber Eats is actually bringing on more drivers, but I will tell you that I've been very busy over the past week and a half to 2 weeks. Once I got over my upper respiratory infection, I hit the road once my cough was gone and I had a voice again. So no longer am I contagious or anything like that, so I went back to work, especially with the tours being down. So if you're in South Carolina, you already know Charleston is pretty much a ghost town as far as downtown goes. And I just wanted to say thanks to all the orders from the firefighters, the nurses, the doctors, the elderly, and the military folks that I had to deliver for over these past 2 weeks. Either you were hard at work or you were unable to get groceries. I hit the grocery store twice over the past 2 weeks just to pick up extra needed supplies, and the shelves are still quite empty. People are still shopping because South Carolina is not completely shut down like most of the states that you all are listening from. But people are still out and about, and they are still shopping the shelves of where they're allowed to go. Now, as of today, they have shut down some more retail shops, but that does not include, obviously, grocery stores and gas stations. So I'd imagine that our shelves in those areas are going to be even thinner. Let's move on. Let's talk about something else other than the coronavirus. So as of the secret update from Byron Price, I don't have any news as of yet. Just because we're still waiting for the city of Charleston to open up so we can actually dig up the cask. I need you to stay tuned to the Buy Me a Coffee bonus episodes to not just support the show, but to hear where we are with our dig. So if you aren't a supporter of the show, head over to buymeacoffee.com. Of course, there'll be a link in the show notes. Drop $1 in a coffee pot. That's not a repeat thing. That's not a monthly bill. It's not per episode. It's $1. You get access to all of the bonus episodes, and you get to keep the show going. Right now, with tourism being down, I'm actually looking to add more equipment to my tours. So any patronage that you want to give to the show is greatly appreciated. But we have been given the permission to dig up where we think the cask is. And of course, I've been sworn to secrecy as to where that location is, and we will not be allowed to reveal that location unless I am correct. So at this point, we are not going to be doing a bonus episode for the month of April, like I said a few weeks ago, but we are planning on doing the next bonus episode once we figure out if we are correct, which I feel very, very strongly about. But you can listen to those episodes with Brian McFarland. He is my tourism partner, where we have been investigating the Charleston Secret by Byron Price for the past, I'd say, 6 months. And I believe we have come to the correct conclusion, and only the episodes on Buy Me a Coffee will reveal that. Now, I have been kind of pondering releasing one of those bonus episodes just to give you all something else to listen to. So for you secret fans out there, let me know if you would like to hear this. I know a lot of us are kind of strapped for cash right now, and I'm out here asking you to drop $1. But at the same token, I just want to give back to all of those that have been supportive of the show by listening every single week and maybe putting that out there. So if putting clues together, not just in ghost hunts, interests you, but you'd like to hear more about Byron Price's The Secret, let me know. Drop me a line. Head over to the website, nicholasmcgurr.com, hit the Tell Me a Ghost Story tab, and let me know what you think. Or you can head over to the blog and always leave me comments on my one particular post about Byron Price's The Secret. This week, guys, because I haven't been out and about, I've been out driving for Uber. I was not able to get to another location. It has been very busy out there delivering food to those that need it, and I'm very grateful that I'm able to do that. But I do want to continue talking about the gadgets and the different things that we come across as paranormal people, not just investigators, but people that are just interested. So this week we're going to be talking about EMF detectors and why they're so important on my tours and in an investigation. Yeah, I stumbled over that a little bit. So just know, guys, that Stories in a Cemetery is more than just a podcast. It's an actual ghost hunting experience that you get to take with me. I'm your tour guide. That's my main gig on top of being a writer and an author. But I'll take you downtown, and we walk the streets of Charleston. Tourism has come to a screeching halt right now, but you can still get your tickets to use later. At any time, whether it's in the fall when ghost hunting is a big thing, or over the summer because you're going to be here in Charleston, just head over to Groupon, look up Stories in a Cemetery, and you can look for discounted tickets. And those tickets usually go on sale for the weekend. So if you check it like Thursday, Friday, it's usually a good time to get on there and see what kind of discounts Groupon's giving. And again, as long as you don't redeem the voucher right away, you can use it at any time, or you can head over to peek.com. That's peek.com, and you can look up Stories in a Cemetery there, and I'll have direct links in the show notes. So if you want to come take a tour with me, make sure you check out the show notes and check out those links. Last but not least, make sure you leave comments or reviews on iTunes, Stitcher, or Anchor. That's my host. With Anchor, super cool, you can actually leave me a voice comment or tell me a ghost story there, and I may just feature it inside the show. So if it's cool enough, I will definitely post it in there and kind of see how that goes. This week, guys, I do want to discuss the EMF detectors. They're super important to my tours. So it is the one major tool that I usually give to my skeptics, because they are the ones that they don't believe in anything. Let's just put it out there. They don't believe in the ghost hunting. They were dragged there by a friend, a significant other, somebody else, and they're just kind of there to be there for that person. I usually give them the EMF detector because it's usually the first gadget that goes off, and it's kind of hard to hide their excitement. It's really hard to hide their excitement when that gadget goes off. The really cool thing about the EMF detector is it kind of gives us a signal that we can start using all of the other gadgets a little bit more in depth, and that way we can actually try to communicate with the spirit world through one of my tours. Now, this isn't just a big, long advertisement for my tours. It's just the experience that I have with EMF detectors, not to mention on all of my private investigations that I've done either by myself or with a few family members. But today, we're going to talk a little bit about the different types of EMF detectors and why we use the ones that we use and how they work a little bit. So I'm not going to go into a full physics lesson. On the blog post this week, you will find a video. It's a YouTube video by Crystal Leandra. And I'm going to praise her for this video because it even gave me a little bit more of an in-depth look on why we use EMF detectors. I mean, I knew why, but she explains it very, very well. And I posted her YouTube video right in the center of my blog, or there's a link at the bottom of the blog for you to go directly to it and subscribe to Miss Leandra's channel, her YouTube channel. She talks about a lot of stuff, and she really gets into depth, and she's been on TV shows, and she does a lot of research herself. So make sure you check her out, Crystal Leandra. So let's first start off with the different types of EMF detectors. Guys, I use a K2 meter. That is the model number for the EMF detector that I use specifically. And there's a couple reasons that I use that specific one. First off, you should know that it is a single axis point meter that measures all electromagnetic fields. Electromagnetic fields come in different variations. So there are magnetic fields that come from man-made products, like your cell phone, your computer, your microwave, TV, Wi-Fi, all of those crazy man-made items. And then there's the natural magnetic field that comes from the Earth. And the K2 will measure both of those. So it's not going to tell you which one is which. It's just going to measure it as a whole. So it's very important to know when you're looking at different K2 meters and different electromagnetic field detectors, because the K2 meter is a single access point. It's only going to measure from one antenna, and it's not going to be able to tell you if it's either from a man-made product or if it's from a natural product from the earth. I use it because it's simple. It has lights on it. It's easy to see in the dark. Not all of the places that I take my guests are lit, and it's easy to read. It's very easy to read. You don't really need to know the numbers and all of those things. We're not recording data. Now, paranormal investigations in the history they actually used to record the data from it. They recorded the numbers. They wanted to know the very specific pieces of it. My tours are not going into those specific numbers of I'm writing a report on each individual tour. So just to have that type of activity is what gets us excited and able to use the other devices. Nor are we spending a lot of time in one specific area. I want to say there's 7 different stops on my tour. With that said, I mean, we might spend 10 to 15 minutes in one particular location. That's really not a whole lot of time to do a full investigation. So therefore, I mean, we don't need to record data. The K2 meter gives us some lights if there is activity, and then it kind of gives us the other opportunities to explore the other gadgets. The grid pen, the thermometers, do we have cold spots, those kind of things. And then the spirit box, we get the spirit box going for whoever has that gadget. While the specific person with the EMF detector, hopefully the skeptic, if I have one on the tour, will keep us going. I have a spike over here. It won't stop moving over here. So that's where we know where we need to go in a specific location. The other one that I'm actually looking into, let me continue on with the K2 and why I use it. So it's simple to read, it's simple to use, you could see it in the dark, not to mention it's pretty inexpensive. I think you can get one for about $60. It was nice that when I started this tour that I didn't have to spend hundreds, like $800-900 to get this going with the equipment that I needed. I didn't need to go that high. So a $60 K2 meter of any paranormal fan to recognize a piece of equipment, that was a win for me. Now, I am going to be looking into the tri-field meters. Now, these are super cool, and I haven't used one before, but after reading about them, I got to get my hands on one of these things. So they're about double the expense of a K2, so we're looking at about $120 to $200. But what this does, it actually has 3 access points for accuracy of where the EMF detection is coming from. Not to mention, you can actually separate the man-made electromagnetic fields from the devices and gadgets and cell phones and all that stuff versus the actual the earthly magnetic fields. So it would actually take out a lot of the debunking that you need to do with the K2 meter. Just by simply setting it to a specific setting, it will actually take out all of the man-made EMF variations. So to me, that might be worth the investment right there, because I will tell you, I don't make things up on my tour. I tell my guests right off the top, before we even get going, that if we're going to hit a crosswalk where there's street lights and there's crosswalk lights and those kind of things, like the EMF detector is going to go off, because there are electrical lines underneath that are giving off different EMF readings. So do not get excited when we cross the busier streets. How cool would it be if I didn't have to go into that part of my speech? So that might actually be something I definitely look into. I will say I am planning on getting one of these tri-field meters and testing it, and who knows, I may even do an unboxing through a video or something on social media. So make sure you follow me on social media if you want to see me unbox one of these things and actually use it. So that would be really cool. So that's going to leave only the anomaly fields to be detected instead of me trying to debunk stuff. So to me, that's super cool. Not to mention, it'll give me a little bit more of an accurate reading since it has 3 access points instead of just the singular, like the K2. I'm not going to go into the whole physics of the electromagnetic field. Like I said, check out Crystal Leandra's video that I posted, and you can also check it out on YouTube. So you can probably just type in her name. Her Crystal is spelled with a K. Guys, right now, let's take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. And we're back, guys. Thanks so much for allowing me to put sponsors in the middle of the show. It definitely helps move things along for Stories in the Cemetery. So, we were talking about the different types, and I'm definitely planning on getting one of these tri-field meters. So, on my tours, I help my folks out because we try to debunk things on any kind of spike on the K2 meter before we move on. So, one of the first questions that I ask is the light pulsing? What I mean by pulsing, think of a metronome, where it's giving off a very steady beat. That could be from a cell phone, could be from any kind of electrical wiring, those kind of things. If it's a steady light, meaning I would just say that the orange light in the middle of the meter is on, that could be from something man-made as well. I need something that's a little bit more erratic. I need things that don't make a whole lot of sense. I need them to go all over the meter. I need them to dance around the K2 meter in one specific spot. Why do I need that? To determine if we're actually catching on to something? Because a pulse or something steady is going to be from something man-made. What's kind of cool about this is I've taken the K2 meter and when I've had erraticism coming out of it and we couldn't get it to stop no matter where we moved in a circle, we can actually ask the spirit to step away from it, which to me is super cool. Because it's actually happened on a number of occasions for us and my guests on my tour. What that does is it makes it go right back down to green and show a 0 reading. And then we can actually ask it to come back. And it's happened. I've been super excited about events like that happen on my tours. I get excited for my guests. They get excited. It's proof that we can actually communicate by using this specific device. Now, the K2 meter is very sensitive. And again, it's determining, picking up waves from man-made products and from the earth. So sometimes it's hard to determine whether or not we're actually getting something that's from the paranormal world. That's why I look for that erratic light spray to actually show me a light show. I don't want any pulses. I don't want a steady light. When I have those things, that's usually a good thing. I also want you to remember, folks, that my ghost hunting experience tours are on the streets of Charleston. I don't take my guests inside any building. I don't have anything rigged. And I definitely don't have anything on my person. I have actually had a guest one time accuse me of having something in my jacket and making the gadgets go off or making the spirit box do what I want them to do. And I literally took off my jacket and handed it to him and said, go ahead and inspect because there's nothing on me. As far as the locations that I take you and take my guests to, it's not going to be 100% guarantee that it's going to happen on every single tour nor on every single night. I've had really active places like the Pinckney Mansion site with the spirit box, the EMF detectors, grid pen flashes, orbs showing up on the camera, absolutely have no activity on some tours. It's usually my most active spot. And if that EMF detector isn't going off once I at least reach the center of the Pinckney Mansion site, it just proves to me that it's a legitimate haunted location, because it's not always the same thing. It's not always going to give me the same data. I can't go to one specific spot of the site and I know it's going to go to orange, or I know it's going to go to red over here. It's on the fly. I can't make this stuff up. I know that there are shenanigans that go out there with some of the ghost tours and the ghost haunted places and those kind of things where things are set up. I can't make this stuff up. I'm taking you to parking lots. I'm taking you to alleys, streets. The EMF detector will tell us if we're onto something or not. It's really simple. That's why I love this gadget so much. If you want to take a listen to any of the tours that I've given, you can hear the excitement in the guests. I record every single tour. Head over to my site, nicholasmcgurr.com, go to Stories in a Cemetery, and look for the tour audio. I post every single tour. I do this for two reasons. First, it's to give my guests a souvenir. They get to listen to their tour over and over again. You're not going to get to do that a whole lot of times as far as other tours go. I think I'm the only one here in Charleston and will allow you to do that. I do it for you, and then I upload it for all to hear, and it's evidence. Second, we're listening for EVPs, which we're going to talk about on another podcast episode. We're not going to get into EVPs today, or the types of recorders, or something that I'm actually looking into. as far as upgrading my voice recorder. But you can actually listen to when the EMF detector is going off because you can hear the excitement and the person who has that gadget in their hand. And I'm going to keep calling it a gadget because at this point, there is no scientific evidence anywhere that an EMF detector can detect ghosts or spirit activity. So why do we use it? It's a change in a force that we cannot see. If you really think about that for a second, we're talking about a magnetic field from the Earth. If that is changed in any way, shape, or form from this world or any other world, we have no way of determining that unless we have an EMF detector, no matter how sensitive it is. And we have different styles, obviously, that I've talked about already. But the skeptics out there, they don't always believe that an EMF detector is going to give us any kind of legitimate evidence. I tend to disagree. If it's erratic on a K2 meter, that's pretty sensitive, and I can't make sense that somebody's cell phone isn't nearby or their smartwatch isn't making it go off or anything like that, or any kind of electrical wiring, we got to go with, let's see what the other gadgets are going to give us. It's our first determination that something is actually happening. Now, I don't always just go off the K2 meter, obviously, but it's my first inclination that something is occurring right now. What else can we do to communicate? Get the spirit box. Get the grid pin out. Hold it as steady as possible. Is there anything else going? Is anybody's batteries draining from their cell phone or anything like that? That K2 meter right now is a big start to each location. It's needed. Otherwise, I'm going to be waving a spirit box around and hearing whatever I want to hear. It's also said, guys, that electromagnetic fields can have different effects on the human brain. And this wouldn't be an episode about EMF detectors if I didn't talk about the human effects, the effects on the brain. Some studies say that EMF detection has an effect on the brain so much that we can actually hallucinate to the point where we believe that paranormal activity is happening. I think that's absolutely absurd. I think it does have an effect on the body, and I do think it has an effect on the brain, but I don't believe like it's enough for us to be hallucinating a belief system. Now, when I dove into this a little bit further, I did find an article on the World Health Organization website about EMFs. I put the link on the blog post. It's pretty simple. Their conclusion is, and quote unquote, there's little scientific evidence to support the idea of EMF hypersensitivity. Recent Scandinavian studies found that individuals do not show consistent reactions under properly controlled conditions of EMF exposure, nor is there any accepted biological mechanism to explain hypersensitivity. Now, the hypersensitivity is how we would feel under high EMF conditions. I don't expose my folks, my guests, to long, prolonged areas of high EMFs. If we have high EMFs, we're there for about 10 to 15 minutes. We move on. We get where we want until the activity slows down, and then we move on. Pretty simple concept. None of my folks are hallucinating. We are all, at least most of the people on my tours, are believers in the paranormal. They've either had an experience themselves, and they just want a little bit more proof. That's what I'm there for. I'm there to teach them how to use the equipment, where to get the equipment to use for themselves once they go back home, whether they're locals or they're tourists. And we kind of talk about their different experiences, and I try to help them make sense of it. I'm helping people. I'm helping them when they go back to wherever they live, look for things. They could pick up a $60 device, great. But there's one more thing that I use on the tour that kind of helps back up this information. You've all heard me talk about different Spirit Box apps and things like that. I do keep an EMF app on my phone open at all times to kind of back things up. It sounds crazy. I haven't even looked into how this works as far as an EMF detector on your phone, but it will give you a signal. And I've tested it time and time again at different locations, and I've tested it even with electronic devices around my home and in my office. I don't know how it works. I don't care how it works. But I will get signals at the same time that I'm getting signals on the K2 meter. It's got to have some kind of science to it. I just haven't dove into it yet. Perhaps I'll be doing an update on this episode and or the blog post. There are some apps, and I've used several of them, and most of them do give you the same type of reading. They're not as sensitive as a K2 meter, but what's cool about them is some of them will actually tell you what they think is nearby. I did put a screenshot up of the one that I use consistently, and it just says potential EMF small speaker detected. When I actually put that near the speaker of my computer, so it was correct. But again, the numbers really don't make sense to me because I'm not a scientist. I'm not into it for that. If I do get that far into something where it's a specific location, I may dive more into the numbers and see what they mean, but you can actually watch them go up. Super cool to do. It's free. If you don't have the $60 to drop on a K2 meter, download an EMF app. Just type in EMF Detector in the Google Store or on the iTunes. So, guys, I use it to debunk things. If I'm getting too much of a sensitivity reading off the K2, I pull out the other EMF on my phone to see what's going on. If I get a reading from both, I'm usually onto something. Normally. So guys, what's my conclusion? I'm going to be investing in a tri-field meter. Probably going to do another episode just on it or do an additive to this one. Right now I'm recording this April of 2020, so we'll see if and when I can get that gadget. And I'm going to use it on a private investigation before I take it on a tour, so that way I can learn more about it. It's going to help in my debunking piece of things. As for my belief in EMF meters, I believe they can determine unknown forces in the Earth's electromagnetic field. Watch Crystal's video. She'll give you some of her beliefs as well. As for proving this theory, hopefully someday all my research, which is now posted on my website, will be studied more in depth by those looking to prove the validity of the gadgets we choose to use while ghost hunting. Guys, I want to hear your thoughts. I want to see what gadgets you're using. I want to see what proof you have. And which EMF meter are you using for your investigations? And what evidence have you recorded with them? And what locations are you going to? Because who knows, I might want to go investigate it myself. So guys, as always, if you want to support this blog or podcast, make sure you head over to buymeacoffee.com. Leave me those comments at the bottom of the blog post, and I will talk to you guys soon. Please stay safe. Thanks so much for listening to today's Story in a Cemetery. Be sure to check out the show notes with pictures and bonus audio sections on nicholasmcgurr.com. As you know, I'm a writer, and now you have another story that inspires me to write my fiction works. Be sure to share this episode on your social media or leave me comments on the Stories in a Cemetery Facebook page. I'll see you next time with another Story in the Cemetery.